Hey kids, you doing anything on Saturday, March 29th? You want to do something fun and awesome? Then get ready to cause some mayhem with these!
Yeah!
It's the Nerf War of Alamu Mesa, hosted by the Southwest Animation and Gaming Expo and Black Rim Ops. Join us on Saturday, March 29th at 3 p.m. at San Pedro Park across from San Antonio College. Bring your own gun! Kids' tickets are still $0. And by kids, we mean everybody! Our well-seasoned war leaders will keep you so safe it'll blow your mind! It's fun! And safe! Extremely safe! With all kinds of different Nerf War games such as Standard War, Mexican Standoff, Free-for-All, Explosion Dodging! Well, maybe not explosion dodging, but lots more! Come out and you'll also get the chance for discounted entry to the first ever 2015 Southwest Animation and Gaming Expo! March 29, absolutely free! Nerf War of Alamu Mesa! Be there or don't show up!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
Josh Knight the First.
This is episode 3 of season 3.
Or episode 49 if you're counting.
I'm glad to see you guys back here again. I'm glad to see that this is going as well as it is.
You know what? This is actually a good decision that we made to go live this season.
Yeah, I've actually really liked it, and I've really liked playing around with graphics and stuff. I know we're not especially technical for the time being, but you know what? It's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
I mean, we're no CNN, but...
No, I mean...
Why would you want to be?
Yeah, because all CNN can talk about is a plane that nobody can find, and I know it's a really sad event, but, like, I just wish they would calm down just a little bit, because they don't actually have anything to report on.
What you gonna do?
But we do!
Oh,
we talk about new stuff all the time!
All the time!
All the time!
Before we get to that, you want to talk about stuff?
What kind of stuff?
I don't know, this is usually the part where you ask me about stuff.
Oh, then what's up with stuff?
Alright, you want to know about stuff? I'll tell you about stuff.
Okay,
the
tell me
stuff
about
this
stuff.
morning. Alright, so Taco Bell... I know a lot of us out here eat Taco Bell. They just launched their breakfast line this morning at 7 a.m. your local time. And I've been hyped for this because I don't know about you guys, but I like the idea of a waffle taco, which is basically like an Eggo used as a tortilla
to me.
and like sausage and egg in there, and I would eat the hell out of that. And they've been advertising it. It's coming. It's coming. March 27th. It's coming.
And I got really depressed because, like, Taco Bell's apparently now, they're starting to open at 7 a.m., but at my full-time job, I have to go to work at 7 a.m., so I couldn't go this morning. There was no way I was going to be able to go.
But I could. So I set my alarm, and I was ready. I was gearing up. All right, when we're going to do this. You know, I skipped dinner the night before. We're going to do this. And wouldn't you know it, my alarm didn't go off in the slightest. I was almost late for work on top of that, but I didn't get my waffle taco.
You going to try again tomorrow?
I'm going to try again tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, that's...
Because I was looking forward to that. I want to try everything on that menu. Because, yeah, I can be a little bit of a fatty. I know we're trying to get in shape, but I can still be a little bit of a fatty. And it's it's a first time for everything. Who knows? I might not even like the waffle taco. I probably will. But, there is that possibility.
Possibility. We're going to leave it at possibility.
At possibility. Although on the plus side, though, for those of you who know, like, Taco Bell carries this one... Well, really, they carry, like, 2 different kinds of Mountain Dew that you can't get in stores, right? And one of them, in particular, being Baja Blast.
Baja Blast. That's... Like, next to Mountain Dew Throwback, like, if you give me a choice, it might be a little hard for me to decide between Throwback and Baja Blast.
Well, you see, you weren't able to decide up till this point because you could go out to the corner store and get Throwback, but you couldn't get Baja Blast.
It's still a little more difficult to get Throwback than it is to get regular old Mountain Dew.
Until now. Because they said they're finally going to start letting Baja Blast get bottled for mass consumption.
That doesn't mean anything about how hard it is to get Throwback.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying
Your
which one...
syntax was a little bit off there, I'm sorry.
What I'm getting at is which one will you now prefer more now that you
don't
have
know.
the availability of Baja Blast in your near future?
I don't know. I really like Baja Blast, though. Though I did try that, like, slushy version of the Baja Blast, the freeze thing.
No, I can't do it.
Wasn't really into that.
No,
It's
gotta
not
have
really
the soda.
Same thing.
It's got to be the soda. It's got to be that syrup. Because the thing about it is, when it's in a slushy, it gets watered down way too easy.
If there's no carbonation, what is even the point?
Exactly
What is
my
even the
point. Like, people are gonna go nuts for this stuff. Like, people who didn't know, like, that's gonna be the good, people are gonna come to conventions now with, 6-packs, like, have you heard the good word of Baja Blast?
Oh man, if I were to ever go back to the London MCM Expo, I went to that import table. Like, that was the weirdest thing to go to an import table.
Yeah, that's right, you told me about
and
this.
see American cans of Mountain Dew for approximately $2 worth, and I'm like, oh, well, it made sense because they can't get our Mountain Dew over there. They apparently have some energy drink version. Like, I know we just came out with, like, energy drink versions of Mountain Dew, but, like, they had some thing for a while,
yeah.
And it was like, blah. But imagine if I brought a case of Baja Blast,
they wouldn't know what to do. You had said the same thing about that and a drink we have around here. I don't know if other people have it around the country. Big Red.
Oh yeah, Big Red. Big Red, Big Blue, Big Pineapple, but especially Big Red. Like, that's
like,
a staple.
To people who aren't used to it, Big Red is like bubblegum soda to them.
Well, it's cream soda.
Red cream soda. But if you ask us around here in the South, it's like the nectar of the gods. Like, I'll admit, I've been trying to wean myself off soda, but they're still my weaknesses. Big Red and Baja Blast. Those are always going to be there. But, food and drink aside, we should talk about what we're discussing on tonight's show.
Right, so for starters, here in a little bit, I'm going to be talking about Oculus Rift, how Facebook purchased it for $2 million, and how Notch of Minecraft fame no longer wants to work with them.
Understandably so. Second thing we'll be talking about, we had talked about it last season, but now we've actually started to see the beginning of filming on Fox's new DC property Gotham, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and how the casting's going.
And finally, surely by now all you guys have seen it, there's a trailer for Michael Bay's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's going to be some discussion.
There's going to be some discussion.
There's gonna
all
be
the
some
discussion in here
talks.
tonight. So before we get into that, usually this is our follow-up section, and a little bit more closer to home than usual. You might remember last week that we discussed the Gem live-action movie that they're trying to get off the ground with John M. Chu directing. Well, turns out you actually took up my offer.
You shouldn't have said it. You shouldn't have said it.
Oh, shouldn't I have?
Because then people were like, oh, you should do it. And I was like, oh.
You didn't have to listen to me.
Okay. Well, I did make a video for their auditions, and I don't necessarily think I did a completely horrendous job. Maybe.
Hey, for doing all the harmony parts, I think you did pretty good.
Yeah, actually, if you go and search the Gem the Movie hashtag on YouTube right now, I'm actually within the top 5 most viewed auditions for the time being. So, what, are you going to share the
Yeah, I'm going to put the link in the chat.
Okay.
Now, how many other people do you think are entering at this point? Is there any way of telling?
Well, I mean, you can look at all the YouTube videos. That gives you a pretty good estimate. There's only approximately 3 YouTube pages worth of entries. However, there could be people just directly uploading to Tumblr and then submitting it that way, or people who have their video privatized and they're just sharing the link with only the people they choose to share the link with. So it's really hard to say, but actually there's a pretty decent cross-section of a variety of people who are going out for these auditions.
So-
And it's not just people in one age range. Like, there's some fairly young girls. There's some really talented musicians. There's a couple of dudes. Like, there's a pretty decent cross-section. And I think they have their pick if they're going for casting of the majority of the cast. But if they're only trying to cast Jem, like, part of me wonders how many people are they actually trying to fill roles for.
See, that was the thing I was wondering about last week. I'm very hesitant to think that they would cast Jem out of this wide net. They'll probably go with a known actress.
Now, another thing that I found out only after the broadcast, which was really kind of dumb because they actually had already posted this before we did last week's broadcast, they actually do have a
cutoff date.
Well, no, they have a short rundown of the... They do have a cutoff date, and they didn't say that before.
Yeah.
They have a short rundown of what this script is supposed to entail. And Jem is apparently supposed to be a teenage girl, which maybe she might have been a teenage girl in the cartoon series.
It's
but
hard to tell.
She would have to be 18 or 19 because she legally owns Starlight Music.
So probably 18.
Anyway, so their script calls for Jerrica Benton being a teenage girl who gets discovered on the internet, and then she and her sisters, not just one sister, but multiple sisters, go on some crazy adventure to find her dad's final messages to her, which sounds only vaguely like the original Jem and the Holograms TV series.
It sounds more like the Chipmunk Adventure.
It does, right?
But to be fair, the Chipmunk Adventure had awesome songs, and no one can deny that.
It really did. That movie, actually, we just saw that movie on DVD sitting at Walmart for pretty cheap.
It's
the good Chipmunks movie.
Yeah, the good Chipmunks movie. Like, that movie has withstood the test of time. I cannot watch, and you guys probably know what I'm talking about, the penguin scene with the Chipettes.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna front. I'll tear up every time I watch it. Every last time.
Every last time.
Because I'm a real man who cries at little cute penguins. Yeah.
So, anyway, all I'm saying is...
So, the cutoff date, though,
yeah,
that
there is a April 6th cutoff date for these auditions now, which is a cutoff date that they did not specify prior to them releasing the video saying, hey, we're taking auditions. Just make sure it's under 2 minutes or something. I don't know, whatever.
Like, okay, for those of you here in the chat right now, we're recording this on Thursday, so that's next Saturday for the cutoff date.
Right, and then they're going to start having auditions for other things such as costumes, art, music, that sort of thing.
I imagine that stuff might be a little bit easier as far as competition goes, but even then, I myself know a couple of very talented costumers and things like that.
I think DeviantArt will flood them, is what I'm guessing.
Oh, for the art portion? Oh, forget it. I don't even want to...
the art portion, like, even if I thought I had talent, I'd be like, no. Like,
as soon as those submissions open, it's gonna be like, like this flood of submissions that they will have to wade through and pick through, and some of it could be great, some of it could not be so great.
Right.
But that comes with anything that you have open submissions for.
So since Jem and the Holograms is something that I am pretty familiar with, more so by far than Josh is,
admittedly,
I will probably be keeping my finger at the pulse of this and going through updates from time to time. That having been said, you want to talk about the actual news stories?
Sure.
Because, yeah, you know, we can do that if you want.
Yeah, we can talk...
I think I'm going to do that. Okay, so Oculus Rift is a thing that...
See, you get mad at me for segues. You just ran into that head first. And you hit a wall.
Well, I'm just telling you, it's a thing. It's a virtual reality thing. It's a thing that a whole bunch of backers paid for at the end of 2012, being like, "Oh my God, this is gonna be so great."
Okay, so putting it in perspective,
virtual reality. And
yes, Oculus Rift is this virtual reality sort of goggle set that, yes, like she said, was crowdfunded for about $2 million.
Over Kickstarter, yeah.
Over Kickstarter, and
almost $2.5 million, actually.
2.5 then, looked very promising. People had been speculating for months, like, what is it we're going to see out of this thing?
Mm-hmm.
This is something that the people funded. That's the thing about Kickstarter stuff. You feel more connected to it because you're the one investing in it.
Right, exactly.
So as such, you expect a certain level of say-so and quality out of the thing you've put your money into. And people are wondering, okay, well, is this going to be used for gaming primarily or for movies?
They advertised it specifically as, oh yeah, this thing is specifically made for immersion into video games.
That's not to say people weren't thinking about movie applications as well.
Oh, I'm sure, but like the way they were advertising it specifically on Kickstarter, like I'm looking at their old Kickstarter link right now.
Kickstarter page.
Like they were planning on bundling it for their dev kit with Doom 3's BFG edition, and even John Carmack was like all over this thing. It was so big, and so gamers were like, "Yeah, virtual reality, and it's gonna be way better than Nintendo's attempt at virtual reality."
Virtual Boy. I'm sorry. I'm allergic to bad products.
I'm just telling you, like, this was going to be the home product that really sold virtual reality and video gaming. So then Facebook comes along and they're like, "Hey, I want you $2 billion right here."
Billion.
Look at the number right there.
$2 billion.
$2 billion.
That people. $2 billion. $2 billion with a B.
Yeah. And
funded for $2.5 million with an M, $2 billion with a B. That is it fair to say that's pretty low-end giraffe money?
That's pretty much giraffe money, if I may say so myself.
And yeah, so $2 billion, and people aren't exactly happy about it.
Well, especially Notch of Minecraft fame, who was considering that they were kind of sort of talking about bringing a version of Minecraft to the Oculus. But once Facebook decided to get their grubby little hands on it, Notch was like, "You know what? Never mind. I don't really like the way Facebook does business. I don't like their business model. I don't like that they don't really seem to know where they themselves are going with their business model. I just don't feel like dealing with it. I understand that Oculus Rift had to make business decisions, and I respect that decision, but this is where we part ways." So
I respect that, but at the same time, you gotta know that people out there, who are looking forward to that, myself especially, because I'll admit, I'm not a big Minecraft fan. It doesn't appeal to me as much, but the idea of being able to see the world that you're building, firsthand, was intriguing, and that might have gotten me in, but, hearing this deal is canceled, I don't want to touch it now.
Right,
that makes me
exactly.
even less likely to play Minecraft. So you've lost 2 sales there. One of the Oculus Rift and one of a copy of Minecraft.
Well, surely it would have been better than the Xbox 360 version of Minecraft, where you're fairly limited in comparison to the PC
Well, most
version.
people will tell you it's PC or nothing on that.
Yeah. All I'm saying is that this was a product that, like, we expected video games out of this. And now what am I going to expect? Social network games? In virtual reality? Like,
how does that even...
Virtual reality Farmville? Like, virtual reality Candy Crush Saga?
Virtual reality Marvel Avengers Alliance?
I can't imagine. The only thing I can imagine being cool, like, I really think that augmented reality is cool, for example. And if Oculus Rift can do some interesting augmented reality social network crap, like, that could be cool, but it's not what I wanted it for.
But that's not even really what it's made for.
No, I can't imagine the social network usage of virtual reality. I really can't. Oh, I can pretend I'm sitting on my couch next to my friend who's very far away. I mean, that's cool. I can't touch them. I can't share a drink with them.
Well, that's just something you could do over Skype.
Right?
Is just, chill with somebody from across the country. But I'm trying to think about it like, if it was like, say, Mark Zuckerberg having bought it for himself, to say he owns Oculus Rift, that would be one thing.
No,
but Facebook...
Zuckerberg himself purchased it under Facebook.
Right, that's where the problem comes in, because when you think about Facebook, like was brought up with Notch, yeah, Facebook's kind of having an identity crisis. Every what is it, every month and a half we're having to deal with a new update, and
Right.
stuff gets moved from the right side to the left side, or the left side to the right side, and then I can't find posts, this, that, and the other. It's already cluttered enough on my screen right here in my lap. How much more cluttered is that going to look right here in my mask area?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want clutter right here in my eyes where that's only going to make me more
Like,
angry.
I'm just kind of wondering, like, now what exactly makes it different from Google Glass? Because Google Glass, oh, maybe it's not in 3D. I mean, what's the point? What's the difference?
Like, stop me if I'm wrong on this. Oculus Rift is just a set of goggles with no camera, right?
Yeah, it has no camera. So...
All right, well, that's the difference. Google Glass you can see out of, and you could probably, if you
or
messed
does
with
it
it...
have a camera? I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
No, I don't think it does.
Yeah, at least Google Glass you can look out of and see the world around you, and if you developed it, you could do your augmented reality idea. But the fact that it's just that, you can forget any sort of AR applications there because your eyes are covered.
Mm-hmm.
The feed
I mean,
has to be
I'm
coming
sure
from
you-
somewhere.
Did you ever go to Six Flags Fiesta Texas while they had that virtual reality game set
You mean
up
that
thing?
really old, like,
old,
giant...
old. Yeah.
Like,
You stood
was
in
basically-
this circular thing with handrails around it.
and you had this old, like, laser tag blaster, and you were wearing basically an overhead projector with a head strap on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Of course I remember that. It was expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you all you're doing is looking left and right and up and down, and you're firing, and it was basically a rail shooter.
Basically. I had such a hard time adjusting to it back then, partly because of the graphics, that I wouldn't look around. I would just try to keep trained on one thing, because it hurt to look around because I was just looking at hard edges left and right.
Yeah, at the time that was something that made you really sick. I mean, Oculus Rift looked like it was creating something that will probably make you a whole lot less sick than that old VR game was. But
Now, see, people here in the chat are bringing up, so when is Quest World becoming real?
oh my god,
Like-
please no.
No, okay,
Please,
I will
no.
defend the idea of Quest World.
No!
You know, as it was utilized in The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. That's what people expect their virtual reality experience to be like. Something that's immersive, something that feels visceral and real.
If a social network game can actually get that in-depth and meaningful, okay, maybe. I just don't see social network games going that far.
Like, I'm thinking about it, like, real talk, like the applications of virtual reality on Facebook. Okay, I get to watch my likes this close. I can do that right now. There, I did it.
Good job. I'm
I don't
proud
have
of
to
you.
buy Oculus Rift now.
Yeah, but you're not seeing it in 3D.
I don't need to.
You're not seeing it all around you. You're not seeing it.
In the world I live in, Facebook is already all around me. And you know that's the truth.
I kind of want to cry because it's like I feel like maybe this is even a new thing to be concerned about with crowd-funded projects. Not just that, oh, maybe the project won't finish, but perhaps the end result, like, it'll finish, but, well, technically it's not available for full sale yet. But before it reaches full-fledged sale, then the project gets sold to somebody else who's doing something completely different than what was advertised for all of these backers.
Well, because you think about that, you bring up a very valid point.
Like, what if suddenly Mighty Number 9 got bought by Capcom?
That would...
That would ruin it, because Capcom doesn't know how to do video games anymore, quite frankly.
Well, no, what makes
But-
it even worse, in that specific case, were that to happen, I'm not saying it would, then again, I don't know, but in that specific case, if Inafune makes that game with all this this heart and soul into it, and we've seen the most recent run-through that they've rendered, and it's looking very promising, you
That
do
music
that...
is great, too.
Oh, yes, love the music, love that theme. But you get that, and then Capcom buys them out. One, I don't believe that would happen. I wouldn't think Inafune would let that happen.
No, I
but
think
if it got
he's too
bad,
heartbroken.
but if that were ever to happen, that would completely go back on everything that they were trying to do to get away from that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, you did all the hard work for us. Psh, money. You know, just throwing the giraffe money around to get whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that like, it's an understatement to say that sucks. That something about that is just wrong.
Right. So can you see now, perhaps, why this is such a big deal? Why this might really hurt the feelings of the people who backed this project, hoping to get an amazing new gameplay experience out of Oculus Rift.
You're absolutely right. The only thing that can be done now, the only thing, is we have to get another Kickstarter going so we can buy it back from Zuckerberg.
Yeah, but he's gonna, rate up. It's gonna hike up the rate of the Oculus Rift. It's gonna be more like $5 billion, and I don't think he's gonna part with it. I don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't know. There's a lot of people out there with nickels and dimes. We might be able to do it.
I don't know about that.
With our collective change in our couch cushions, we could potentially
save Oculus Rift.
Well, I was going to say probably get enough for breakfast at Taco Bell.
I was about to say, you're thinking breakfast tacos, aren't you?
Yeah.
I just sort of had an idea.
But, yeah, unfortunately, that's the case with Oculus Rift. Take it or leave it. I'm not even going to try and take it.
I'm going to leave it.
Nope. Okay, so moving on to our second story. We had talked about this last season, but now we've got a lot more news to cover with Fox's new series, Gotham. They've just started filming over the past week or so, and we're getting our first look at the characters here in the show. And we've got more of a rundown for what this series is going to be about. To begin with, I think it's worth noting that this is the first time we're going to see a character that a lot of people got to know on the animated series, Detective Harvey Bullock, who's going to be played here by Donald. I can never pronounce his last name. Lowe. Yeah, you've seen him.
I'm excited about, actually.
Well, yeah,
because we've seen him only so much through the animated series. I think once or twice he's been lightly touched upon in a comic somewhere.
No, he's had plenty of comic history. He's been there since the 80s.
Yeah.
But the thing about Bullock is that most people know him, of course, from the animated series. This is the first time that he'll be depicted in live action.
Yeah, and in the animated series, he's just kind of a tool who always makes a whole bunch of bad decisions. Like, I don't feel like they expanded on him as well as they could have.
Well, no, he's not nearly as rich as his comic counterpart. Mm-hmm. Admittedly, though, he's got some good episodes there in the animated series. Robert Costanza bringing that voice to life. Like, that's the voice people hear in their heads. Just the same as they hear Kevin Conroy's voice in their heads for Batman. That's the standard right now that he'll have to live up to. Now, admittedly, costume-wise, he's a little bit more modernized. It's a black leather trench coat, but he more or less looks like the same character. And I'm happy with that.
He's got some more facial hair going on.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think he's older than I expected him to be.
They are casting him older than Gordon, which I think is interesting, because usually it's kind of they're on an even playing field, or he's just a little bit younger than Gordon. Mm-hmm. Now, you bring up the facial hair, which is a funny thing, because we got our first look at Ben McKenzie, who's playing the role of Gordon here.
I think they forgot which person was supposed to have the facial hair.
Yeah, because you look at Ben McKenzie, and he looks exactly like he did in Southland. Clean-shaven, cop haircut, and that's it. He doesn't look like anybody. He doesn't have the trademark mustache, glasses, and it's like...
He looks like he could be running a Fortune 500 company, actually.
Well, he looks like a lawyer to me.
Yeah, he's just business suit and tie, like business as usual. I'm not doing any crime fighting tonight. What are you talking about? I'm staying in. I'm going to go home and have dinner with my wife.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of bugs me more than anything else about this show, because really the show's based around him, and fans by this point have this idea in their heads of what Commissioner Gordon looks like. Again, from the animated series, from the Arkham series of games, from any of the animated movies, somewhat in the live-action, whether you're talking about the 66 series with Adam West, or any of the movies, specifically with the Christopher Nolan, the Dark Knight trilogy. At least Gary Oldman looked like Commissioner Gordon.
Oh, he looked like a Commissioner Gordon, he was born to play the role.
I know, and you think about it, again, like I brought this up before, that's the litmus test you gotta hold him up against, was his Commissioner Gordon, which was so richly layered. And, Gary Oldman brought all that to the role. He's got a lot of ground to cover.
I mean, I guess this shows that yeah, maybe that's the point, that this is a Gordon that has a lot of ground to cover. He has to grow, he has to become that commissioner.
Right, because he's got to go up the ranks of Gotham PD. And yeah, that's going to take a lot of work because he does not bear any resemblance to the Commissioner Gordon I know. At least visually, we do see a couple of shots, action shots that have been shot on location of him and Bullock doing a rooftop chase across what's supposedly supposed to be Gotham. So great, they're actually getting some stuff done there. In addition to that, we've also got our first look at Alfred. Now, the thing that bugs me about Alfred, here he's being played by Sean Pertwee. They're going again, and this is the same thing they went with for Beware the Batman, and I'll read you the description of his character. Alfred Pennyworth is a tough-as-nails ex-Marine from East London who has loyally served the Waynes. Now in the wake of their tragic deaths, he's fiercely protective of the young Bruce Wayne. Now, the thing they emphasize in that sentence is the ex-Marine part. Don't get me wrong.
He
Alfred
looks pretty stone cold there, I have to
Alfred
admit.
being part of, having a military past, yes, that is part of his character. I have never denied that. The fact of the matter is that's not necessarily the most present thing that you bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you emphasize that fact, just like they do in Beware the Batman, you're emphasizing, oh, he's going to punch somebody then.
Right. I'm expecting that he's gonna go out and maybe save Batman's hide once or twice.
And you think about the way Alfred's been portrayed over the years. He's the faithful butler, and yes, some versions portray him as more the feeble old man than, hey, I was able to do some stuff before.
Well, there are some versions of Alfred where he's able to fend for himself. He just chooses not to until he absolutely has to.
Again,
like if there's a threat that gets anywhere near, like Wayne Manor or the Batcave or anything of that sort.
Well, they touched on that a little bit in Batman Begins. Really, the best example of that, again, is the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
They had a whole episode to that. I think it was The Lion and the Unicorn was the name of that episode, where they touch on his past and him having to go out and do some stuff while Batman's incapacitated. But that's all you needed. It's enough to know that he's capable. I don't have to actually see it more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
Because a big point of who Alfred is to be that father figure that Bruce needs.
Yeah, this guy just looks he looks big. Like, I'm not talking fat, he looks broad.
Yeah, he looks like he's got some muscle under that long coat of his. So, it remains to be seen. I'm willing to bet he'll throw a punch a couple of times this first season, maybe even more so. I just hope that they don't emphasize that too much. And then again, going down the list of people here, we also have our first look at Robin Lord Taylor as Oswald Cobblepot, who many people know is the Penguin.
He kind of looks penguinish.
A little bit. He doesn't look overtly penguin like you've seen.
He doesn't look totally messed up just yet. He looks slimy enough to me, if you ask me.
Which is fine.
Yeah,
because this is he hasn't necessarily become the Penguin yet.
Mm-hmm.
He's working under another mob boss there in Gotham, Fish Mooney, who's going to be played by Jada Pinkett Smith, and he's again, I'll go ahead and read the description they're giving for the show. He has the brains of a chess grandmaster and the morals of a jackal. A low-level psychopath, he hides his sadistic lust for power behind an exquisitely polite demeanor.
That sounds like him.
That sounds like him. Okay, thank you. Good job, guys. Granted, he's got more hair than I'm used to the Penguin having.
Well, if we're going for
it's
younger versions of a number of these characters, I don't see anything wrong with that.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. It's younger him.
Mm-hmm.
He'll probably lose the hair. It's fine. We have yet to see what some of these other characters will look like. We did, however, get our first look at the young girl who's playing Catwoman, and I had that here a second ago, but they've got her cast as a teenager, which is, I guess, okay.
I mean, what's she doing? Is she committing, like, really low-level thievery, like,
more or less
shoplifting? Like, what's she doing?
Yes, Cameron
Stealing
Bicondova,
from her mother's purse,
if she even has a mother. Visually, I see a little bit of the the Selena Kyle that we saw out of Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns. She looks, very all leather jacket, dog-studded collar, fingerless gloves, fishnets that are kind of ripped up. And she's in her early teens. I think 13, 14 is what they're saying.
Oh, wow, really? That young?
Yeah, but Bruce is like
wow.
8. Which is about the right age because it looks like they're starting off with the Wayne family's murder. So I guess that's fine. A Catwoman who's a little older than Bruce, I guess, is okay. It just remains to be seen how they're going to play that out.
Well, I would imagine that there wouldn't be too much interaction between the two of them for a long time anyway.
Well, see, that's the thing you got to think about in terms of the show, and I think I only touched on it before, but let's go ahead and talk about it now. You think about Smallville. Smallville ran for about 9-10 years, and after those really after the first 5 seasons, it just became agonizing for a lot of fans out there. Because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of still very hardcore Smallville fans out there, but after a while, you can't help but say, you know what? Enough already. Put on the dang suit.
Yeah, exactly.
Season after season goes by and it's like, okay, put on the dang suit. Here, it's not quite the same thing because we understand that there are specific things that Bruce has to go through before he can actually become Batman. Now,
so if this is supposed to go on, like if they're planning on this thing being a hit, and let's say it becomes a hit as long as Smallville was a hit,
right?
Then will we see this kid over time, like this poor kid, he's got to be Bruce Wayne like his whole life, this kid playing Bruce Wayne, and then he's going to eventually become 18-year-old Bruce Wayne, who might eventually be this guy who goes off and trains to be Batman.
See, that's the problem I see, because if we're thinking chronologically, regular passage of time, he won't be old enough, even in a short run, or a long run for that matter, to be Batman. Because by most accounts, Batman becomes Batman in his late 20s, early 30s. After he's traveled the world and amassed all this knowledge and skill to be able to take on the criminal element there in Gotham. And yeah, I'm expecting either we're not going to get that far, or unfortunately, we might have to have a time jump.
Ugh, I hate time jumps.
I know. And the other thing that's a little weird to think about, like let's not kid around here. Catwoman, for the most part, is a very sexualized character, and we're gonna have to watch this girl go through puberty there on screen and become that much a little bit more appealing to an audience that knows to expect that from that character. That's a little iffy to think about.
Yeah, especially because this is a real person playing this character, and people are gonna think that about this young woman,
right?
Who's technically not a woman yet. So
no, she's a girl.
So, that's really disturbing to think about. Why'd you have to go in that direction?
Well, because I don't know that anybody's addressed it yet, and I think that's a legitimate concern to bring up. And it's gonna be that weird juxtaposition, because if she's doing a good job, you're gonna feel weird about it. But if she's doing a good job, it's like, hell yeah, that I can see you becoming Catwoman. But you're gonna have those couple of fans out there like, oh, I see you
waiting for you to turn 18. That's right.
Yeah, and that's where the creep factor comes in. And it's like, oh no, we don't want to go down this street. Just like Bruce didn't want to go down that street.
Oh,
with his
shut up.
I'm sorry, it was wide open right there.
You put yourself in that position. Let me just remind you, you were the one who made that street position all yourself.
All right, fine. Well, speaking of the Waynes, we have seen them on set. Him with his parents, Thomas and Martha. They look very modern.
They look very happy. Look at them. They're a happy family. Look at them walking down the street like that.
Yeah, so happy, And I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I hope we get to know them before they die. It would be very unfortunate for them to have to die right there in the pilot. I mean, yeah, I get, that's a good kicking off point, but it would mean more if we got to know them.
Right.
If we got to feel that loss along with Bruce. And then from there, where does the show find its identity? That's the real question. Because, yeah, this is a story about Bruce finding his identity as the Batman. This is about Gordon finding his place as, do I really want to go up against the criminal element and the corruption here in Gotham? Do I really want to do that? This whole story, this whole series is about people finding who they will eventually become, good or evil, you know, light or dark, Batman, Catwoman, whoever. There's a lot of weight on this, because you think about it, this is going to be out before we get anything out of this Man of Steel 2, Batman vs. Superman, whatever you want to call it. So this has got to satiate people's appetites for a while.
Do you think it makes it any more difficult when everybody knows where these characters end up?
I think it does make it a little bit more difficult.
Because it would be kind of restricting knowing, like, oh, we gotta take them through all these different paths, but at the same time, we gotta realize we can't make them entirely our own character. They have to become this thing.
Yeah, and that's a very tall order, because it like I said, that's the annoying thing about Smallville. You eventually get to the point where you're tired of seeing Clark wear everything short of blue tights and a red cape.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get tired of Lex not having the full company. It's not like, say, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where you're starting an original story, or Arrow, who's not as much of a well-known character, so you can take a lot of liberties. These characters, people are more well-versed in, because you think about it, this year marks 75 years Batman has been around. People have had a chance to learn about these characters. More people will tell you they know about who Oswald Cobblepot and Selina Kyle are than will tell you who Oliver Queen is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's... I think that's a fair assessment.
I'd say so.
So, yeah, Fox has a lot of ground to cover. Hopefully, they'll be able to do it. Nobody wants a bad Batman property. It's the same well wishes we give to the movie, we give to the show. We want it to be good. We don't want it to be some weird mishmash that makes us beg for you to put it out of its misery.
Mm-hmm.
So, as the casting continues, we'll get to see how many more of the Rogues Gallery shows up, how many more of the Bat family shows up, if any, because, yes, this is early on in the career, but we'll keep you guys posted on this.
Yeah. Now, a number of people actually jumped the gun here in our chat room and started talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles before we did. So, good job, guys. One of you actually chose not to acknowledge that it exists, so I'm sorry. We're acknowledging that it exists. Just for you.
So here we go, guys.
So that happened. Michael Bay's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had its trailer launched today.
Yeah, and... Okay, so let's just go through the trailer bit by bit, and we'll just talk through it to start with. It's a short trailer. It's more of a teaser, if anything else. Only about a minute and a half, and we see the criminal element there in New York City. We see a tower falling over. We see guys with guns, presumably the Foot Clan, and then you see, from producer Michael Bay,
and it looks exactly like the Transformers font. They're even making Transformers sound effects.
Oh yeah, that
yeah.
And yeah, the groans start, but then really I want to get right to it. The biggest apparent change that this new movie has to offer us is this idea, as you hear William Finchner, who's playing Eric Sachs / the Shredder here in this movie, talking about, is that people want heroes. A sentiment I agree with. Here's the problem. The next thing he says, that's what your father and I were trying to do, Miss O'Neill, create heroes.
Okay, what's April O'Neil's father got to do with this? 2, you are not going to try and tell me your intention was to create mutated teenage turtles.
Who are mutant and ninja.
You are not going to tell me that the ooze, that the mutagen was created for that purpose.
Because you think about it. Every iteration you've ever seen of the Ninja Turtles, they are an accident.
Oops! Down into the sewers, down through the
New York City sewer system.
Oops! Oh, what a horrible mistake.
She's trying to get it down the garbage disposal.
Oh, where did these turtles come from? Dunno, lol.
Yes, but point being, we're used to that that is the cultural consciousness as far as Ninja Turtles are concerned. We're used to them being an accident, that they don't really have a home, but they have a home with each other. And yes, there's something to be said about them as a family. But they got that across, and I think, what was it, Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze, when they find out that they're an accident, it means something. That, you know what, we've got to give meaning to ourselves. We've got to stick together here. Now, granted, it wasn't, some people say it wasn't the best movie. I still like it. But
well,
they got that.
The third movie.
Anything was better than the third movie. The third movie we don't talk about. All right? We don't talk about that. But here, you're trying to tell me Shredder was responsible for this?
Well, I mean, it's not completely unheard of, but it was still an accident.
Yeah, but this...
You're telling me it's supposed to be an accident.
But you're telling me here, Michael Bay, it's intentional.
One, it's intentional, and two, he worked with somebody else, specifically with somebody related to April O'Neil. Like, April O'Neil should have been an innocent bystander.
Like she's always supposed to be.
Nothing to do with anything. She just got mixed up between Foot Clan and suddenly, oh my god, there's these huge mutant turtles staring me in the face.
Okay, huge mutant Ninja Turtles. We can't miss that. The turtles are huge.
How do they fit down into the manhole?
Exactly. How is that even possible? These things are too huge. They would get stuck. They would die trapped in a sewer grate. There is no way those turtles could possibly move around without getting detected because they're huge. How do you train these 4 turtles in the art of ninjutsu when they're that big?
Like I can almost give a pass to their design, alright? I can almost let that go, aside from the fact that they're so freakishly big. Now, Michelangelo's personality in the, 2 sentences that he says in the trailer, fine. So
Actually,
far that is the only thing that I've been like, okay, that's kind of, alright, I can deal with that.
Right, because, he shows up there at the end, he very much seems to have a sense of humor, and yet, really, because you've got the clear shots of Michelangelo throughout this whole trailer, that's where you're getting the most complaints about the look of these new turtles. Now, we had heard before that they were going to be a little bit different than what we were used to, but even in the few hours that this trailer's been out, people are ripping their looks to shreds. Not going to take that pun there, but, saying, oh, no, this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Shrek. No, or they've got Voldemort's nose. No.
Or non-nose.
Or non-nose, as it were. And we can't figure out why they decided to do that. Other than, lol, turtles.
I mean, they kind of look like real turtles a little bit.
Not really.
Well, I always thought that they used to look more like frogs than turtles.
Well, admittedly, in the animated series, yeah, you could say they look more like frogs, but we were okay with that. We were kids.
Well, after all, again, I have to bring up the point that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was not a property that was originally created with the intention to take seriously.
Right.
It was all parody, like really super hardcore, ludicrous parody.
Like Laird and Eastman made that as a commentary on the comics that were coming out at the time. They just didn't expect it to take off the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes this household brand.
Right.
And that's really where you hate this. Because because it's Ninja Turtles, it's already made money.
Mm-hmm.
But
just by existing.
Because it's got Michael Bay's name on it, and we've got live-action Turtles again.
Despite the fact that everyone makes fun of him for Bayformers, let's not kid ourselves, it makes bank.
Serious bank.
Because people buy nostalgia, whether it's good or not. No matter what happens with the Gem movie, somebody's gonna go see it. Even if it ends up being absolutely nothing like the original television series.
Exactly.
Because people are eating up nostalgia.
And you think about it, you see enough elements, that's the way I feel about Bayformers that I feel about this. He left in just enough of the original core, what makes these characters, just enough to where
you can still call it by this name.
Right, where you can still call it by this name, and especially the nerd that knows a little bit better about it, oh, I know what you're doing wrong, but I see you got that right. and that's just enough pull to make me want to buy a ticket. Just enough. I mean, it was enough to get us in the seats for the first Transformers movie. Maybe not so much the ones afterwards. But, yeah, you know, they... To a certain extent, he kind of knows how to get you by the balls with those nostalgia gloves. And, you know, you see it in the way Leonardo stands, or the way Michelangelo is talking to April, or the fact that they even slightly gave April any sort of yellow something.
To be fair, everything after the original animated series has had an April O'Neil that does not wear the jumpsuit, and she just wears like an orange or a yellow T-shirt,
Or something, yeah.
It's never been a jumpsuit ever again. So
at least here it's a jacket, so
yeah,
it's an improvement.
Whatever.
And you know, we've also got this scene of the turtles on a snowy mountainside.
Like, if turtles are cold-blooded, wouldn't that be a bad thing?
Wouldn't it?
But then they're mutants, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of this. Now, you see for a brief second, you know, a flash of Donatello whipping somebody around, and if you guys have seen the shots that have been released of what the turtles look like, you'll be able to tell that they've got very individualized looks to them. In specific with Donatello, he's got a pair of, wouldn't you know it, black rim glasses on top of his mask, you know, that he wears kind of up like this. And then he's got this big ol' tech backpack thing on his back. And it's like, okay, Bay, I get that you're taking the song literally, Donatello does machines. You didn't have to make him carry it around the entirety of the movie. Because again, how does he fit through the sewer with that thing on his back?
Some people are suggesting, well, maybe they don't live in the sewers. And I'm suggesting, well, that's stupid. I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm saying
making that decision.
I would believe that. And the fact that I would believe that, it's stupid, because I believe that he would make the decision to have them not live in the sewers, which is exactly where they need to be.
Like, I don't need the turtles to have gone in, you know, 4 ways on a village in the West End, you know? You know, and
they have their own high-rise apartment.
Yeah, Splinter got it rent controlled. And that's the other thing too, because people have been making, and I think the Kotaku article that talked about it today made this idea up. Okay, so April's dad is Splinter.
Oh my god, please no.
I'm worried that might actually be the case.
But then, okay, what about the whole? So nobody's from Japan?
Nobody's from Japan.
So nobody's Japanese.
Right, so why are they ninja?
Yeah, so who learned ninjutsu?
So
who taught ninjutsu? Did somebody just have a dojo? Did somebody just have their own Rex Kwon Do studio somewhere in New York City? And then they touched the ooze, and then they turned into Rat Kwon Do? Like, what happened here?
I don't know.
What even happened here?
Because, yeah, they've got to... It's the thing with any sort of reboot. You've got to retool it for another generation and make it their version of the thing you like. But you can only do that so many times before you lose vital parts of what make that thing enjoyable to begin with. And, yeah, I imagine that this is going to be the cheapened, somewhat watered-down version for this generation. And I hate to think that, because right now the Ninja Turtles cartoon right now on Nickelodeon isn't doing too bad, but the thing is, you see at the beginning of this trailer, it says Nickelodeon Movies. They had a hand in it.
Well, they have to get permission from Nickelodeon, because I believe they're the ones with the rights to Turtles at this point.
Right. Now, admittedly, we don't see very much of Shredder in this, if at all, really. We see plenty of Eric Sachs, and we see this one shot. Yeah, we see this one shot of him looking at the armor. But I don't get why he would be talking about heroes 1 second, and then he's going to turn on these things the next. The only thing I could possibly come up with is that in trying to come up with them, it's the same thing as, like, say, Captain America. You're trying to work on the super soldier formula, doesn't work out, and then you ended up dumping it. So maybe the trailer's just slightly ill-worded or misleading. That's what I hope, is that it's actually closer to the original than what we're being sold here. But I wonder about the look of the Shredder still, because from this shot, the helmet doesn't look bad.
No, but we've seen the full suit in photos before.
Right, and the funny thing about it was there was an interview with the screenwriter, Andrew Nemec, about the look of the Shredder, and he said, well, I can tell you one thing, he's sure not going to be a guy with cheese graters on his arms. No, he's a guy with cheese graters on his arms. We've seen the picture.
What's the name of this? Was he the screenwriter?
Yes, Andrew Nemec.
Yeah, Andrew Nemec. Yeah, he's basically the one who influenced this screenplay. Not like Michael Bay hasn't laid his own hands upon the work too.
No.
Like, you can't expect that these two people don't work together to create a final product.
Oh, no, of course not.
There's a lot of
You have to
argument
work
that
in
we don't
tandem.
have a clue what we're talking about right now, as if Michael Bay, we're considering that Michael Bay made all the decisions currently. Clearly, if Michael Bay's directing, he has some influence along with a screenwriter.
Exactly. That's, you pick people that work together on this project. You look at Nemec's work before. He's worked on a lot of TV before. His biggest thing probably being Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol a couple of years ago, and the series Alias, which, was on ABC for a couple of years. But a lot of the stuff just doesn't last very long, like Fastlane on Fox, Life on Mars, which I believe was on NBC. It doesn't really seem like he's got a lot of staying power, so I wonder why, in specific, they went with him for the writing on this movie. I guess because, if they had this vision, the studio had a vision, Michael Bay had a vision, they work with this guy to work on that vision, because I guess they showed him something close to what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously here we can see some in the trailer of, okay, I guess this is what they wanted, because they believe this will sell. Will it sell?
Oh, it'll sell.
It'll sell, yeah.
It'll sell. That's not a problem. I mean...
I'll give it as much leverage as this. It'll probably win more people over later on down the road when they release a second trailer and we actually get a better look at Shredder and Splinter. That might change people's minds on this. And actually seeing... Because I don't think we saw Raphael at all in this.
I don't think so either. And at no point that we see all four turtles all together in one place at the same time.
I find that a little...
I thought that was kind of important. Kind of an important thing to skip.
Yeah. Like, the money shot, basically. You want to see all four of them, geared up and ready for action. Kind of like in the Avengers, in the good trailer, when you have that nice 360 shot of all the Avengers together, that's the money shot. That's what makes people want to go see this movie. They haven't delivered that here. They still have a chance, but, they might want to get on that.
Alright, so we only have a couple minutes left, so we better wrap this up.
Right. Again, we want to remind people that we've got the Nerf event, Nerf War of Alamo Mesa, this Saturday, 3 p.m. down at San Pedro Park. If you have the opportunity, please come out. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Bring your own weapons. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. It's going to be safe.
We also wanted to remind people that we are taking submissions for ads. Just hit us up on Twitter or private message, and we'll get back to you on that, on how exactly we're going to price things on that.
We're still pricing it. Actually, it would be a little... I'd maybe wait a little bit on that personally,
but at least let us know. That way we can get you in the running.
Advertising information. Yeah. I'll get some more information out there, maybe in a PDF format. But it'll come out, and you guys will have that opportunity to advertise right along with us. So that having been said, I'm glad we were able to do this with you guys again. Definitely come out and visit with us next week. If you're watching us on YouTube, just remember, if you watch us live, you can hang out with us for an additional 30 minutes, and we'll just shoot the breeze with you right here, like we're gonna do with our guests here in the chat room right now. So, until then, you can still follow us on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm at Josh Knight First.
I'm at Mars Girl Prod.
And remember, next week is episode 50, and we might have a little bit of a surprise.
We might?
Well, that's what you told me.
I didn't say that.
You didn't say that?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, then I'm hearing voices.
Now you're gonna have to make me get a surprise. Okay, we have to wrap this up in like 1 minute. So,
okay, well,
alright, we gotta get out of here, guys.
Alright, this has been Beyond the Black Rims. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay, bye.